12:15. We got a bunch of recruits in. Coach has got a lot of things to do. I got two other guys we got to get in here. We're going to go with one and done with the questions so we can get as many in. Open up Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, a week into spring ball, what are you most pleased about overall?
I like the energy at practice. You guys got a chance to see it, a couple of days anyways. It was early, but there's just been good energy. I think the coaching staff's some new faces in there. They've been prepared for the practices. I think the leadership's been good. I think the effort's been good. Overall, just a lot of juice in practice, a lot of people moving around with a purpose, getting some great feedback from recruits and families who come in and watch us work and the way we work. So that part's been good. This is now, today was a helmets practice. We'll go today, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday padded, and hopefully get a feel for kind of where we're at. First 4 practices have sort of been just heavy install, but good effort so far.
Dan Hope, I'm worried.
Ryan, the last couple of years you've had some guys who are still on the team participate in Pro Day. Are you going to have any guys who are on the team go through with drills Wednesday?
Yeah, we do. Really we have just about every position represented, so we don't need a ton of help, but we will. I think Mick's still finalizing that, but it'll probably be, my guess would be Carnell and Brandon to help with the receivers, help with the Mecca, and Will, but I think that may be it. But I think we're still working to finalize that for Wednesday.
Austin Ward, podcast.
Right. I asked about Austin Siereveld last week. I'm just going to keep doing that, I guess. Are we not talking about him in the right way? It felt like swing guy, maybe sixth guy, and he gets the Iron Buckeye as well.
Right.
Could he? I know it's so early. Could he start at one of these spots for you?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope that's the goal. When you think about the guys who have come in that third year, is really a lot of those guys take the next step. And that's what we want with Austin. And usually it's a good sign when you're an Iron Buckeye coming out of the winter. It's a great sign. So, again, I think it's funny. You get done on January 20th, and then you start up, just a week ago. And it wasn't only like 2 months ago. But sometimes you can come in with a different demeanor, different look in your eye, different approach. And, he's so far shown that look in his eye. Now, what he puts on the field here this spring was yet to be determined. But up until this point, he's done everything right.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, last year's nucleus came from that 21 recruiting class. The 22 recruiting class, only 7 of those guys of the 21 are still here.
Right.
And Sonny wasn't even supposed to be here. Why do you think that class hasn't panned out, and how important is it that the remaining guys do make an impact this year?
It's funny. I was looking at that just recently, and I think a lot of it had to do with the class that was ahead of them and the class that was behind them. And some guys deciding to come back last year. There was just a lot of reasons, and for whatever reason, that group never made it up the depth chart. Some guys early on in their career, some guys later.
Coach, can I introduce you to Joe Reedy, new writer for Associated Press, right over there. Joe, go ahead.
Ryan, just a weekend with Matt Patricia, how do you assess just him working with the defense and getting up to speed?
A lot of energy, building relationships right now, just getting started. But I think the feedback from our players has been good. I think they really enjoy the conversation, the extra time that they get a chance to spend some one-on-one time with Matt. His experience and credibility speaks for itself. I think they know that, but now they're getting a chance to meet him, and I think it's been great. I think we've gotten great feedback from the recruits as well, who have had a chance to meet with him. And we're just starting to dive into some of the different things that we can do on defense, and there was a couple good things today. So we'll see. Again, just a couple weeks in, but again, I look at the staff chemistry and then chemistry with the players, and so far that's been really solid.
Tony German, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, you guys don't normally go into the FCS for a transfer. What made Logan George the right guy for you, and what have you seen from him so far?
Yeah, he comes from the same hometown as Tommy, and we felt like we at least knew some people there to ask questions about his background, and then watched his film and just saw a player who played really hard, really physical and tough. Brought him in, really liked his family and his support system, and just what they believe in, and we felt like it was the right fit. When you bring somebody in, as you know, it has to be the right fit in terms of a player, but also who they are as a person, and their characters and their beliefs and their values, and really aligned with Logan during that time. And he's come in and actually did a nice job in those 2 weeks when we were preparing to play in those last 2 games of last year, and he's taken it from there, did a nice job in the weight room. He's a very serious guy, but he's earned the respect of our team in a short period of time.
Matt Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Matt, given the openings at both tackle positions.
Yeah.
How important is this spring for the two guys you brought in, and what have you seen from them? I know early on, but the two transfer tackles.
I like the way that we're working right now. I think there's a good rhythm about, Tyler and all the guys. I think when you see Marcus, Coach Dickey, they're attacking this thing, all three of them, and there's just a good rhythm about them. They're breaking up the work. I think the guys on the offensive line feel like they're getting better coming off the field every day. And you're seeing a lot of guys swing right now, playing a couple different positions, and some of the techniques are similar. They'll start to settle themselves down, but right now those guys are just working, competing. But as we know, the tackle position will be critical as we move into the next year.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Just a bigger thing. I don't know if you've figured out the details yet for the spring showcase or not, but there are other programs around the country who have been deciding not to have spring games at all. Other rule mentions because he didn't want people looking at his players and stealing them. Why is that still important for Ohio State to have, whatever it's going to look like, have something on that day for the fans to see at the end of the season?
Yeah, I think it's good for everyone to know. Like, my plan is to have a spring game. I just think we need to save a little bit of wiggle room in case we take injuries. That's it. So we want to do this. We want to play a spring game. Now, there may be some guys that are held from the spring game, but not many. We feel like, again, we're 159 days away from playing Texas, and that day will matter to a lot of young players. So we need to get out there and compete. The format of it and how it works will probably be similar to what we've done in the past. So it'll be a great opportunity for fans and folks to see our guys and get out there and play. That part of it, to me, it is what it is. But we need to go do it. It's important that we start the season fast, and I think that first step is playing in the spring game. If we're down some linemen or down some bodies and we have to adjust, we'll figure that out from there. But we're, I guess, just 3 weeks out here, and so we plan on playing in that spring game on April 12th. So looking to get a great crowd, and I know we got some great things planned that day.
Adam King, WBMS.
Coach, Brian Hartline, your relationship with him during practice now, how different was that from 2 years ago? How much has that grown? And what does his role look like right now?
Well, he's got the headset on, kind of like Chip did, and he's calling the plays and talking to the quarterback. So that relationship is important. And we talked about the other day that there's going to be times where he's going to meet with the quarterbacks and the receivers in the room together, which is something that I think is important as the play caller, because he's got to have a connection with the quarterback. They got to be on the same page. And so, that part of it in practice is something he's getting used to, as opposed to not having the headset on, not communicating to the quarterback, just coaching his receivers. So it's been good. The first 4 days we're just getting used to it and working out the kinks, but he certainly knows the offense well, knows how to call plays and all that. It's just, finding that rhythm of how do you do that in practice. And I think there's going to be times where maybe, we have somebody else just call it into the quarterback. They can almost literally read off the script so that he can get out there and start coaching the guys. But it's different than just calling a play like it was in the past. Now you're actually, saying it to the quarterback. And that's something that Chip did every single day, whether it was a walkthrough or it was at practice. And I think that's something we need to continue as much as we can without interfering with the teaching.
Dave Holmes, WSYX.
Yeah, Ryan, you lost a lot of leadership as well as talent. I'm curious, now that you're around this group, is there a different personality on all these teams, or is that maintained by the coaches? What's kind of the feel of this team as opposed to last year?
There's consistency, but I think, to your point, one of the challenges that I gave to the leadership group was finding their voice and personality. I think it's coming out. I think you're seeing it, which has been great. Great to see. I don't think we're there yet. I think they just need more opportunity and more time.
Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan Jeremiah is named an Iron Buckeye. Did you guys issue like a challenge to him after the championship game to just continue to push to get better? And what have those conversations been like with him since that breakout freshman season?
Well, he was an Iron Buckeye as a freshman, which I think he's the first ever. And then to come back and do it again shows his discipline. And this is something that we talk a lot about. Talent is one thing. Does he have talent? You're darn right he does. But it doesn't always necessarily mean you have discipline to continue to do it over and over again. Make the right decisions on a daily basis on taking care of your body and the effort and the work and the intensity and the attitude. But you see all those things. And that, to me, what is the biggest difference differentiator with Jeremiah? It's that. And then obviously the skill, and he controls how much discipline and skill he has in his life. And so that's something we tell our entire team to focus on. God's given you a certain amount of talent. It's the discipline and skill that you control. And that's, to me, where he, again, is special. And his work ethic sets an example for the other guys. There was a day last week where we're in special teams, and he goes through and does one of the reps on special teams, And it was a drill that maybe he won't do. It was actually a defensive sort of drill where he gets your hands on a guy and snags him. And so, when he's up there and that's the example for the whole team, if I'm a guy like Quincy or one of these young guys like Dez, I'm watching it saying, wait a minute, if Jeremiah's doing it, I got to do it. And that's great leadership right there. And we need that as we move forward with Jeremiah. And I think, he's done it by example, but in his own way. If he can start bringing guys with him, that's the next step for him.
Jimmy Watkins, Cleveland.com.
Brian, we asked you a couple weeks ago about separating Matt's work from what Bill was doing in New England. I'm sure that's followed him for a long time now. As someone who has also worked under great coaches, I'm sure you want to emulate some of the things you do, but how do you create your own identity as a coach?
I think first off, you lean on the guys that are around you. There's a lot of teamwork that goes on, and then you do what your guys do best. And you use things that either guys in a room have utilized before or things that you've seen on different staffs, and then you put them to work. And sometimes there are things that maybe you haven't even done before, but it's the right thing to do with this certain group of guys. I think that's what will be important this year on both sides of the ball, just like every year, because every year is a different group of guys. And again, that to me is one of the most important things in all of football, but in particular college football, because you have to adapt year in and year out because the guys are different. And that, based on your depth, based on the guys at certain positions, you have to predict what those things are going to look like and how they're going to play out throughout the season. This may be something that it can hold up for about 5 or 6 weeks, but once you get to the middle of the season or end of the year, it's going to dry up. All right, what's the next step, and try to think ahead. And I think that we try to do the best we can through our experiences to predict what those things are going to be, so that we have enough scheme but not too much to overwhelm them.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
When CBS reported on Friday that you guys, the team is scheduled to visit the White House as national champions on April 14th, the date, is that the right date? Do you have any thoughts on getting to visit?
Yeah, it's an honor to be invited. We were formally invited, and it's customary. And I remember growing up and watching the national championship teams go to the White House, and I always looked at that like, man, what an honor that would be. And so it's part of the celebration of our team, and I think the Eagles are maybe going before us, but I think our date is April 14th. Yep. So looking forward to getting all that planned out.
Tim May. The Tim May Show.
Oh, thank you, Jerry. I wasn't kidding, by the way, but I told you in your office. But I'm just here for a little while. Caleb Downs, how much license do y'all give a guy to like work with other guys? I mean, he seems like he's coaching as much as he's playing sometimes anymore and stuff. But how does that fall into kind of what you want from a guy like that?
Yeah, anytime that you can look at it like a coach, that's the last level of understanding. We talk about knowing what to do, how to do it, but then understanding why you do it. And you always think about when you master something, you can usually teach it, whether it's a teacher or growing up with a subject. And so when he's maybe not getting as many reps this spring, healing up, but he's doing great, by the way, with that. But he's got an opportunity to get around guys and help teach. And that not only does it keep him engaged, it also keeps the young guys engaged, shows how important that is, but it also allows him to understand it at a deeper level. So I think all of that is good, and he has the capability to do that.
Does he have that in his future, you think, if he wants to be?
Yeah.
30 years from now.
Yeah, there's not much that when Caleb doesn't put his mind to it, it's not going to happen. I mean, he's a smart guy who just really is intentional in everything he does. He's got a tremendous amount of discipline, and he's very intelligent.
Bill Landis, podcast.
Right. Did you guys learn anything in the playoff about the viability of rotating on the offensive line that might make you want to do that sort of as a matter of course this season?
Yeah. When you're playing this many games with 18 to 22-year-olds, you need to have depth. You have to, because you just know along the way to think that everyone's going to be there for all 16 games is unrealistic. So we've got to try to figure out ways to roll guys at all positions, and there's not one position that I don't think that's the case. But I do think the best example of that was the offensive line coming off of last year, and that's what we're going to use as the example. We need to do. We talk about power of the unit, and I'm actually not even there yet, but that's kind of like the next phase, even for next week with the staff that I haven't really gotten into, is like depth. I know it's always been a big thing before, but now it's not just like putting the starters out there. It's like, how much depth can you have to be able to sustain this long season? It isn't just about 1 game, 2 games, 3 games. It's about the entirety of the 16-game season and being able to do that and making sure that at your position, you have enough talent and production, but you also have enough depth to survive the season. And to me, that's important now more than it was in the past.
Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Brian said he's given a lot of thought to coaching up the box or being down on the field, but he hadn't made a decision on that. It's something you would have a lot of input on as well. What are your thoughts on an offensive coordinator trying to call plays from the sideline, preparing the booth, taking away from this guy?
It's a comfort level of what you're seeing, and then there's. I liked when I was just calling it to be down on the field because I could look him in the eye. But I also like to be around the quarterback and talk to the quarterback. I think if all things are equal and you had a veteran quarterback, you can see more up top. You can be more organized. It's almost like playing a video game. You're detached from it all, and you can think a little clearly. You don't get caught up in the emotion of the game. You lose a little bit of looking somebody in the eye and see how things are going down there during the game. But it's a little bit of a feel. So I think as time goes on, we'll kind of let Brian try to figure that out, and we get into the preseason. We'll do some scrimmaging in the stadium. The spring game will probably be a little bit of a snapshot for him, but I'll leave it up to him on that decision.
And final question, Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
Ryan, staying on that track, like with Brian, obviously as a wide receivers coach, he's the best in the country and is viewed that way by pretty much everyone. Chip was the guy on the headset, but he was talking to the quarterback as the quarterback's coach. How do you balance what Brian needs to do with the receivers versus what he needs to do with quarterbacks versus what he needs to do with play calling, et cetera?
Yeah, well, I think he's got help here with myself and with Billy, and Devin. I did it before where I did coach the receivers and called plays, and I think one of the things that we talked about, Brian and I, was just having enough interaction with the quarterbacks so that he does know and he's on the same page, because I think that's important. But it's sort of a team effort. We're all involved with this. So I think every week that goes by, he'll get a better feel for it and how that goes. But I think one thing that helps us in recruiting, it helps us with the guys, is just the stability of the offense, the stability of Brian, the stability of myself involved with all of those guys that keeps this thing moving. And we're all talking the same language. And I think that's that's good for quarterbacks to know. The rules are the rules. The wide receivers, the rules are the rules. If you just stick to the rules, things are going to go good. And there's not a lot of gray area when it comes to the passing game. And because it's, going on 9 years of trial and error and different things. And so, we know certain, buckets of plays or styles of plays that fit certain, skill sets in terms of quarterbacks, receivers, tight ends, running backs. And, so that part's good. There's not like a lot of trial and error right now. So we all know exactly what it should look like. And we all know the coaching points along the way. But we do have to make sure that there's not a lot of too many voices in the quarterback's head. That has to make sure that it's consistent across the board to make sure the development is strong, because as we all know, it all goes through the quarterback, and that's the most important thing.
Coach, thank you very much.
All right, guys, thanks. Yep.